Imagine a world without cars. No road trips, no daily commute, no drive-thrus. It's hard to picture, right? Before the early 1900s, that was reality for almost everyone. Cars were expensive toys for the rich, handcrafted and unreliable. The average person walked, rode a horse, or took a train. Life moved at a much slower pace, and your world was often limited to how far your own 2 feet could take you. But one man was about to change everything, not just with a car, but with an idea that would reshape society itself. That man was Henry Ford. Ford wasn't the first person to build a car, not by a long shot. By the time he founded the Ford Motor Company in 1903, there were dozens of other automakers. But Ford had a different vision. He didn't want to build a luxury item for the wealthy. He dreamed of a car for the great multitude. A car so affordable and simple that any man with a good salary could own one. He wanted to put the world on wheels. This wasn't just about transportation. It was about freedom, opportunity, and connecting the country in a way no one had ever imagined. That dream became a reality in 1908 with the introduction of the Model T, nicknamed Tin Lizzie. It was everything Ford promised: durable, easy to operate, and simple to repair. But the real genius wasn't just the car itself, it was the price. Ford was obsessed with making it cheaper. When it first launched, it cost $825, a hefty sum back then. But over its nearly 20-year production run, the price dropped dramatically, at one point falling below $300. Suddenly, the automobile was within reach of the average American family, and the world exploded. People bought Model Ts in staggering numbers. Between 1908 and 1927, Ford sold over 15 million of them. This wasn't just a car, it was a revolution. Farmers could now get their goods to market quickly. Rural families were no longer isolated. They could drive to town for supplies, visit relatives, or even see a doctor. The concept of the Sunday drive was born. Suburbs began to sprawl as people realized they no longer had to live within walking distance of their jobs. The Model T literally redrew the map of America. So, how did Ford make his car so cheap? The secret was the moving assembly line. Now, Ford didn't invent the assembly line, but he perfected it for complex manufacturing. Before, a team of workers would build a car from the ground up in one spot. It was slow and inefficient. Ford broke down the construction of a Model T into 84 distinct steps. Each worker was trained to do just one simple, repetitive task as the car chassis moved past them on a conveyor belt. This specialization dramatically slashed the time it took to build a car from over 12 hours down to just 93 minutes. This new factory system was incredibly efficient, but it was also mind-numbingly boring and physically demanding. Workers got tired of doing the same single motion all day, every day. The turnover rate at Ford's factory was astronomical, over 370% in 1913. 2. Build a stable workforce of 14,000. Ford had to hire over 52,000 men a year. The system was on the verge of collapse. Ford needed a solution, and the one he came up with was radical. In 1914, Henry Ford did something that shocked the industrial world. He announced he would pay his eligible workers a minimum of $5 a day. This was more than double the average factory wage at the time. People thought he was crazy. Other industrialists were furious, accusing him of upsetting the labor market. But Ford wasn't being charitable. He was being strategic. The $5 a day wasn't just a wage. It was a clever business move. The results were immediate and transformative. The high turnover rate vanished overnight. Thousands of men flocked to Detroit, lining up 4 blocks in hopes of getting a job at the Ford plant. Productivity soared. But the most brilliant part, by paying his workers enough to afford the very product they were making, Ford created his own customers. He turned his employees into consumers, fueling the cycle of mass production and mass consumption that would come to define the 20th century. It was a game changer, but helped build the American middle class. This combination of mass production via the assembly line and mass consumption fueled by higher wages created the modern world as we know it. The principles Ford pioneered spread far beyond the auto industry. Soon, everything from radios to refrigerators was being built on assembly lines, making consumer goods more accessible and affordable for everyone. The efficiency-driven mindset took over, shaping how we build, how we work, and how we live. The rhythm of the factory became the rhythm of modern life. However, the story isn't all sunshine and roaring success. The reality of working on Ford's assembly line was harsh. The work was monotonous and physically grueling. Ford's $5 day came with strings attached. The company's sociological department would visit workers' homes to ensure they were living properly. They couldn't drink too much, gamble, or have debt. Their private lives were monitored to make sure they were worthy of the high wage. Ford was also famously anti-union, using intimidation and sometimes violence to keep organized labor out of his factories. He was a complex figure, a visionary innovator, but also a ruthless autocrat. Despite the criticisms, Henry Ford's legacy is undeniable. He didn't just build a car, he built a new kind of society. He democratized the automobile, gave birth to the suburbs, created the modern middle class through high wages, and perfected a system of manufacturing that defined an era. The world we live in today, with its highways, its consumer culture, and its global supply chains, is a world built on the foundation that Ford laid down over a century ago. He put the world on wheels, and it has been moving faster ever since. So the next time you get in your car, take a moment to think about the long chain of events that made it possible. It all started with one man's simple, powerful idea. A car for everyone. Thanks for watching. If you found this interesting, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that shaped our world. See you next time.